Hello guys, this is Naruto-kun and we are back with our new fanfic, which is What If Naruto Got Married to Little Princess Hanabi Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and please subscribe to the channel. It motivates me to upload more fanfic like these for you all. Now let's start the fanfiction. Sai was leading Jacken to the stand where Naruto ate ramen. The younger boy wondered why Naruto would leave the hospital so soon. When they reached the stand, Jacken saw that there were two people sitting behind the cloths that separated the stand from the outside. When the two entered the ramen stand, Naruto and a girl with her hair in two buns were sitting at the stand. The girl had her chin in her hands and Naruto had his head down on the counter. Three men were behind the counter, two trying to make ramen and the last scolding them every time they made a single mistake. "Naruto," said Jacken, a sigh on his voice, "why are you here? You're supposed to be in the hospital." The girl and Naruto both looked at the boy. I just can't stand being cooped up in that small hospital room and I wanted some ramen." The girl looked at Naruto and then hit him in the back of the head. "You idiot," she yelled. "You didn't tell me you were supposed to be in the hospital. When you asked me to come for ramen, I was under the impression that you were already released." The sighing, she put her head in her hand. "I came to get away from Lee and Guy Sensei's crazy training and I find a person worse than both." Naruto looked at the girl. "Calm down, Tenten. At least they haven't found you yet." "Naruto," said Sai this time, "Kakashi was looking for you. We have news on Sasuke you should hear." Naruto sat staring for a few seconds, then with a frown on his face, "Sakura-chan told me the news already." "Sai," he said, looking up at the man, "is Sakura okay?" "She looked a little worse for wear when I saw her." Sai shook his head. "She has been working herself hard. When we went on the mission together she pushed herself as far as she could go. When we got back she just kept on working. I think she has been beating herself up over the whole situation. Keep an eye on her, Sai," said Naruto, a hint of a warning in his voice. "Don't let her go too far." The other man just nodded. "Come on," said Naruto, trying to lift the mood a little. "These guys won't have any ramen for us anytime soon." As he stood, Naruto looked at Jacken. Yes, Naruto-kun. Jacken, why are you here? Didn't we get the day off? Actually, Yamato had asked both me and Hanabi to come and see you today." Naruto gave a small laugh and walked out of the ramen stand. As they walked, Naruto asked about Jacken's jutsu. "Oh," said Jacken, "well, my jutsu turns my chakra into light. By rubbing my skin together I can move that light out of my body. The larger the area of skin that goes together, the brighter the light. People think that the lights will hurt them and lets me attack. It is meant to be used for distracting your enemy and then attacking with other jutsu. You would know this if you stayed for the team practices," ended Jacken. Naruto looked at the boy. "Well, I've been practicing something else and I didn't want anyone to get hurt." "Really?" asked Jacken genuinely. "What are you doing?" Naruto, getting a smile on his face. "I'm developing an original jutsu. It's going to combine my Rasengan and manipulating my wind chakra." "Naruto, should you be talking about this?" said Sai. "Come on, Sai," said Tenten. "I want to hear about his new jutsu." "Well, it's not finished yet," said Naruto. "All it does so far is just fling me around and cut me up." Jacken thought such a thing would be truly powerful. "Naruto, what did you use against the Sound Nin?" Naruto looked at the boy. "That was my Rasengan. It's like a vortex contained inside a ball. When I hit the nin it all exploded." Jacken could barely comprehend something like that and Naruto wants to make it stronger. Jacken wondered whether he would even be able to compete in the Chunin exam, and Naruto was already able to take on Junin and win. The four continued to walk on. Eventually Sai left and said he had to go see Kakashi. When the group tuned the next corner, Tenten saw the people she had been trying to stay away from and jet the other way. Lee, however, had seen Naruto and called over to him. "Hey Naruto-kun, over here." Naruto and Jacken walked over to the pair. The first thing Jacken thought when he saw the two together was they must be related. There is no way fate gives out two sets of brows like that. Naruto introduced Jacken to the two. This is Jacken Orochi, Lee. He's on my genin team. The older of the two browed men gave a little cough and the younger one, Lee, was visibly trying to hold back a smile and losing. Naruto saw this and pointed at the man. Ah, screw you bushy brows, I have to be on a genin team. Tenten didn't laugh when I told her. Guy looked at Naruto. You've seen Tenten today. Where is she? I've been looking for her everywhere. Lee, stay here. I'm going to find our young Tenten and see that she lives her youth to the fullest. I'm sorry Naruto-kun, said Lee, a smile and a laugh both on his face. I didn't mean to laugh at you. Jacken, I am Rock Lee. It's very nice to meet you. Lee looked at Jacken for a second. You are of the member of the Orochi clan, correct? Jacken looked a little troubled. Yes, I am. My grandfather is the current head of the clan. I thought so. You have the look that is given to your clan members. I know it well. Your clan members are some of the fastest fighters in the Leaf. The Kunoichi known as Karina Orochi is said to be the fastest person in all of the Leaf. I could believe it after yesterday. Said Jacken, she is my mother. But we use a style from the Lightning Village that is meant to train your body for speed. I have heard there is a style in the village that uses the celestial gates to give them great speed and strength, but ours is different. By using special speed training, we brought over from the Lightning Village, we can get rid of the need to use the gates. Yes, but by not using the gates, the two carried on the conversation over speed until Naruto spotted Hanabi walking towards them from the direction of the hospital. Where have you been? You should be in the hospital for a couple of days still. She said. Naruto just sighed. How many times am I going to be told that? I have to think of some way to avoid these people. Lee saw Hanabi and bowed down his waist politely. Hello, you are Neji-kun's cousin, am I not correct? I am Rock Lee. Well, thought Hanabi, it's better than being called Hinata's little sister. Yes, I am. You are Neji's team, correct? Yes, I am. Do you know where he is? Guy-sensei and I have been looking for him and Tenten all morning. He is at the manor. Haha, Guy-sensei and I shall make them see the true strength of youth. Said the energetic Lee, and he ran towards the Hyuga manor. Having found her team, Hanabi asked them what they had been doing. We were just walking around. Said Jacken. Naruto was telling us about his original jutsu he is trying to create. Hanabi was interested in this. Can we see this jutsu of yours? She asked. I mean, after seeing what you did yesterday, I wouldn't mind seeing what kind of just you did it with. Quote. Naruto looked at her. That was the Rasengan. My jutsu is an upgrade on that. Naruto looked both ways. Do you know someplace secluded where I can show you? Kakashi and Yamato already bust me about talking about it. Who knows what they would do if I showed it out here? Hanabi didn't know any were, but Jacken said there were some empty buildings outside the complex where his clan had moved in. The three of them started walking towards it, being led by Jacken. When they got to a part of the village that Naruto did not recognize, he asked Jacken. It used to be the living area of the Uchiha clan. He said, when they were killed there was no one living here. When my family chose to come here, my grandfather bought the land. It was a real shock. Not only that the land was sold, but that my grandfather bought it. My mother had to convince him to even move the clan. She never expected him to actually buy a place where we could settle down our clan. I guess he didn't want the clan to separate, so he chose land where a clan could live together. This is where Itachi did it. Said Naruto. This is where Itachi killed his entire family. Why would the Hokage sell a place like this? Who would actually buy it? They were answers he would never learn, though. The third Hokage was long dead. Jacken led them to a small house on the outskirts of the village. When they were all there, he had them move back to the sides of the room. He made several clones. He first showed the two the Rasengan. Hanabi looked as the blue orb was formed with her Byakugan. She saw the same surging energy inside the small orb. She was actually scared, even if she didn't show it. Naruto picked up the orb and walked over to the wall and shoved the orb onto the wall. He held the orb's form and a perfect circle formed in the wall where he had put it. If I would have let go of it, it would have exploded and taken out the entire wall. He said. Hanabi was not satisfied yet. What about this upgrade you told us about? Naruto looked a little uneasy, as if some were looking over his shoulder and he knew it. I don't know. Come on Naruto, urged Jacken, who also wanted to see the new Rasengan. Naruto, it's not like you will get in trouble for using it. We're on your team and we need to know what you can do, said Hanabi, unless you're afraid to use it. She taunted, an evil grin on her face and a laugh on her voice. Naruto made up his mind. The two young genin had practically made the choice for him. His clones in him made the chakra swirl and twist. They added the wind to it. Hanabi was in awe of the amount of power he was holding in his palm. Through the Byakugan she could see it molding and twist and turn. As it grew in power though it became much more unstable. A blast of wind chakra escaped his grasp and hit a wall, causing the inner layer to cave in towards the outer. It grew even more unstable. Now a lance of chakra would spring loose, then wind. The Byakugan was going haywire. The chakra was everywhere. Hanabi soon lost sight altogether until she turned off the Byakugan. Soon the power exploded like it had so many times before. Naruto's clones disappeared and all three genin were thrown against the walls, their backs were too. The wind began to circle around and around, with only one small hole to escape from the force of the wind blew the house they were into bits. Karina was walking from the house that she and her family lived in. She wondered where her son was. Then she heard a great bang and saw debris from one of the empty houses go flying into the air. She ran toward the scene ready to fight. Kakashi, Sai, and Yamato were all standing on the Hokage heads together looking out at the village. Soon they saw a white dust cloud and debris coming from the former Uchiha residence. All three of the nin jumped down and began to run towards the area expecting the worst. Tsunade was flipping a coin around reading papers. She failed to catch the coin and it landed on the desk. It had landed on its side. This can't be good, she said to herself. Then she heard a loud banging sound. When Karina had gotten to the site, she saw two bodies right near her. She ran forward and realized that one was Jacken. She ran over to her son and looked around, still unsure whether there were enemies around. The other was a young girl she recognized as the daughter of Hiashi Hyuga. A little ways away she saw something move. It was someone walking towards her. It was a boy with blonde hair and blue eyes in orange pants and an orange and black sleeveless shirt. On his left arm was a cast. He obviously wasn't an enemy. Jacken, Hanabi, he said as he came closer. She turned her attention back to her son. She was pretty sure he was just knocked out. He turned to the girl. She was in the same condition. She looked at the boy, who had now sat down on his knees near the two genin. What happened here? She asked. They wanted to see my new jutsu I've been developing. He said. It wasn't done yet and I lost control. She looked at him harder now. Jacken and the girl will be alright, but what did this boy do that was this powerful? Karina then realized the presence of three more people. She recognized two of the people. One was Kakashi Hatake, a powerful Junin. The other was Tenzo, an Anbu captain and her son Sensei. Kakashi talked first. Naruto, what did you do? His one visible eye was opened as wide as it could go. You know you're not supposed to try that jutsu unless Yamato is there. Karina, are those two okay? He asked. Yes, they'll be fine. Kakashi, what was that thing? It destroyed the house and sent these children 20 yards at least. It was supposed to be Naruto's secret weapon to use, his own personal jutsu, but it wasn't finished. Yamato, you take Hanabi to the Hyuga Manor. Karina, you take care of Jacken. Sai, you stay here and inform anyone who comes asking questions to stay away until I can get Anbu out here. People will try and learn a jutsu from the chakra residue. Naruto, you come with me. Kakashi finished. Naruto and Kakashi made their way towards the Hokage's tower. Kakashi had said nothing to Naruto the entire way. When they got there, he told one of the assistants that he had the cause of the explosion determined and entered the Hokage's office. Tsunade was sitting at her desk looking through reports, Sakura and Shizune to either side. Yes, Kakashi, is there something I can do for you? We seem to have a small problem. Yes, I know, said the Junin, this would be the answer to your problem. He said, pushing Naruto forward. He tried to use his new jutsu, one that isn't finished yet. He put his teammates in danger, as well as himself, and all others that were by him. He was also instructed by Yamato and myself not to use it unless Yamato was at hand to hold in the nine tails. The woman clearly tensed. Naruto, she yelled, do you have any idea how much trouble you've caused me? You were placed on a genin team in order to keep you safe. The elders would have me keep you away, under lock and key. I was able to make concessions to keep you from that. Do you know what it will take for me to do that again? I must keep power in Konoha. The elders and Danzo would have war brought upon Konoha in no time. The woman sighed and moved her hands through her hair. Sakura looked at Naruto. She looked ready to cry but stopped herself by will alone. Shizune's face was like stone. She simply looked at Naruto. Then she spoke up. Tsunade, perhaps there is a way to keep Naruto from such a harsh fate and keep power. If you know a way, then I would gladly hear it. If you sent Naruto, and the rest of Team 7, away to some place where they continue to search for Sasuke and the elders would believe that he was locked away safely. Tsunade sat there thinking for a while. After a good minute she answered, yes, that would work. We will have to leave Yamato here so he can continue leading the genin team. We will send Jiraiya instead. He has a seal that can suppress the nine tails chakra. Sakura, Sai, and you, Kakashi. The four of you will be sent to a secluded cottage I have. From there you will search for Sasuke and Orochimaru. Do not move without sending for permission from me first though. I will send you a squad of Anbu to help you if you do find anything. Naruto looked up. At hearing this idea, you can't just send me away like that. What about the others and taking the Chunin exams? Naruto, said Tsunade, if by some chance you come back in time to take the exams you will be placed on your team, you won't be replaced. This is for your own good. It will help you find Sasuke. Now go, I must make arrangements. When they had left, Kakashi took Naruto to one of the detention centers. Naruto, Kakashi said, you could have gotten Jacken and Hanabi killed. Do you realize this? Every time you have tried to use that jutsu it has activated the nine tails chakra. We will leave Konoha soon. I will pack everything you will need. In 3 days Naruto, Sai, Sakura, Kakashi, and Jiraiya were all on their way to the cottage on the Fire Country's borders. Naruto focused all his power into his right hand. A blue orb formed in the palm of his hand. He swung it from side to side, finally hitting a tree that was near him as hard as he could. Very good, Naruto, shouted Jiraiya, we can end for today. The red-clothed shinobi was a little ways away writing in a book. It had been a month and a half since the small group had gone into their exile. Naruto was leaning against the tree trying to free his arm. Jiraiya had looked at what Naruto had already finished of his original jutsu when they arrived. He had ordered Naruto to work on, not only improving his nature manipulation, but also on his current Rasengan. One of Jiraiya's technique was to tie one of Naruto's arms behind his back and make him learn to do the jutsu one-handed, like it was supposed to be done. Jiraiya had not been happy when he was ordered to come out to the secluded cottage. Not only would it hamper his research, he would be unable to gather as much information on Akatsuki. He had chosen to relieve his unhappiness by instructing Naruto in the only way he could think of, harshly. Naruto finally got the arm free and looked at the toad hermit, a growl on his voice, what do you mean we? I've been doing all the work, You just sit there and write in that stupid book all day. Jiraiya looked at the boy, his face in a half snarl. He pointed at the genin and yelled back, "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have to be here. I would be out gathering information." "Ha, I've seen you gather information. Sitting at a bar getting drunk, laying around with women, and ogling women so you can write about them in your boring old books. Hey, my books are great. How would a twerp like you be able to tell the difference?" The move and the month and a half had strained the relationship between the master and student. While they had lived together for 2.5 years, there was no one else here most of the time. Naruto was upset that he still couldn't create his jutsu. Naruto had been able to train faster in this past month and a half than he had in the entire 2.5 years he had been gone. In theory, he could train his body for the equivalent of 7 years in a single month with his clones. 1,000 clones, 30 days, 30,000 days worth of training, 12 months, 2,500 days a month, 365 days in a year, 6.85 years in 1 month's worth of training. The secret behind his original jutsu seemed to escape him still. When they got back to the medium-sized cottage they had been exiled to, the two separated and went to look for something to do. Sakura, Sai, and Kakashi had been away for the past 2 weeks on a recon mission. As Naruto walked, his thoughts wandered. There is only 2 weeks or less left until Orochimaru will switch his body with Sasuke's. There isn't enough time. Even if we do find where they are hidden, I can't defeat Sasuke or Orochimaru without the 9 tails. Even if I wanted to use the 9 tails against Sasuke, he would simply suppress its chakra. The others better get back soon. Naruto was able to better control his chakra than ever before. He could use the Rasengan properly in one hand. His control over wind came nearly naturally. He had never been faster, according to Kakashi, even though he was never able to learn the Hidden Lotus style. Naruto had some kunai made of the same special metal as Asuma's knives, to combat Sasuke's sword. All this together and he still didn't think he would be able to defeat Sasuke. Naruto knew that Sasuke had been training as well, and Sasuke would still be able to use his curse seal. He wondered how strong Sasuke really was. They had seen a portion of what he could do when last they met, and he could be even stronger now. Naruto laid down in his cot. He wondered how the others in Konoha were doing, what they were doing. Though he had only been away a month and a half, but it already seemed longer, just like when he left for his training. Naruto was soon roused from his cot by the sound of people entering the cottage. He got up and pulled out a kunai. He left the room and entered the living area. No one was there. He turned to enter the kitchen and he came face to face with an upside-down Kakashi. Naruto gave a yell and fell backwards. The Junin was sticking to the ceiling with chakra. At the sound of the yell, Sakura came running into the room, her fist ready to strike. She saw Naruto on the ground and Kakashi on the ceiling looking at her. "Boys, playing games at a time like this. I just left the room and this happens. Kakashi, come on, stop playing around. Tell Naruto the news already. I'll go get Jiraiya-sama," she said, impatience on her voice. Naruto looked at Kakashi wide-eyed, eager. "News? What did you learn? Hurry, tell me." The young boy was as impatient as ever. Kakashi had been angry at Naruto when he tried to show his jutsu to Hanabi and Jakin. He knew Naruto wouldn't have put their lives in danger on purpose, but to use a jutsu that strong, that wasn't finishes, was just plain stupidity. In addition, Naruto could have released the 9 tails chakra, like he often did when he tried to use the jutsu and failed. If he had gotten 4 tails, then he could have killed not only his teammates, but many others in Konoha. "Be patient, Naruto," said Kakashi in his low monotone voice. "We have the location of the base where they are. It seems like they have been there for a while, possibly they have chosen to use it as a permanent base of operations. We had captured a sound nin and got some information from him, but he freed himself and took his own life." Soon Jiraiya came in, followed by Sakura and Sai, and Kakashi explained everything that had happened on the mission. Jiraiya took it all in calmly. Naruto took it all in, but the more he talked the more impatient and anxious Naruto became. When Kakashi finished, Jiraiya looked up at him then looked around at the different people in the room, finally settling his eyes on Naruto. He gave his head a little nod and stood up. Well then it seems we have no time to lose. We can reach the base in a week's time if we pace ourselves. Let's pack up and go. Naruto was ecstatic to hear this and jumped up with a smile on his face. He was soon brought back down by Kakashi. No. What? Why? Yelled the angry Naruto. Kakashi sighed and looked at Naruto with his eye. The Hokage said that if we find anything then we were to send for an Anbu squad. We must inform her before we do anything. Kakashi, said Jiraiya, we may not have another chance to get to Sasuke and Orochimaru. Who knows if they will stay there or if they will go out and travel from base to base. There is only 2 weeks or less left until the transfer can be completed. We must act now. We cannot, it would be a direct violation of the Hokage's orders. I may want Sasuke back as much as the others, but not at the cost of losing anyone else. Keeping everyone alive is imperative. Jiraiya sighed and walked up to Kakashi and placed his hand on the younger shinobi's shoulder. Tsunade means well with her order, but we must act now. If we wait for the help to arrive it will be a week from where we are for the messenger to go to Konoha and bring back the squad. It would be cutting our time limit close. I know Jiraiya-sama, but what can we do? Send back the messenger and have him bring the Anbu straight to the base. We, meanwhile, will proceed towards Orochimaru. That is what we will do. Kakashi looked at the red-clad man. Very well. But we do this my way. Sai, you will carry the message back to the Hokage and get the Anbu. The rest of us will go to the base. When we're there we will sneak in. Giving Naruto a good long look. No one will do anything without my consent. Agreed. Yes, sir, they all answered while saluting, even Jiraiya, though he sounded sarcastic and his salute was more of a wrist flick with 2 fingers sticking up. In an hour, Sai had left and the rest packed what they would need and left the cottage. They traveled north, out of the fire country, for 4 days. They paced themselves and were halfway there by noon. That evening though the trouble started. At dusk the group unpacked their gear and set up camp, 3 tents, one for Kakashi, one for Jiraiya and Naruto, it was the largest and they had lived together, and one for Sakura. They had set a small cook fire and hid their spot as best they could in the foreign country. They had, of course, been seen since noon. In the trees half a mile away sat Itachi Uchiha, his Sharingan looking towards the small camp, and down on the ground was the amphibious Kisame Hohigaki. The two had followed the small group since spotting them at noon. It was no more than coincidence really. They had received the location of the 9 tails from one of their spies and had been on the way to investigate for themselves. It seemed the spy was right. Too bad Kisame killed him. He should have been given a more honorable death. But that was meaningless thought. They would attack as soon as the first one went to sleep, they would feel more at ease knowing one of them could sleep. Kisame would attack the one known as Jiraiya and Itachi would take on the other 3. The first one to fall asleep was the silver-haired Jiraiya. Good, it will make it easier for Kisame. After a few minutes they moved out. Kasami started first by flooding the area. This obviously received attention, but Kasami was still not seen. Itachi showed himself though. The sun was setting and the small fire that they had was out now. Naruto looked up at the man with the Sharingan, hate in his eyes. He blames me for his precious Sasuke being with Orochimaru. Itachi laughed at the thought. Kakashi had given out orders, Naruto would be his backup and Kakashi would take on Itachi. Sakura would stay back and strike where she could. Jiraiya was just coming out of the tent he and Naruto were supposed to share, soaked. He looked up at Itachi and started to stand up. Before he could get all the way up though, Kisame struck. He piled down into Jiraiya with both feet, sending the Sannin down to the ground. Sakura tried to go and help high but Itachi got in the way and slapped her back. Now, you'll have more than enough, he said. Kakashi ran forward, the Sharingan revealed and the mask and head protector pulled aside. He had pulled a kunai out and swiped downwards at Itachi. Jumping over Sakura, Itachi pulled out a kunai and blocked Kakashi's strike. Naruto had pulled out 6 shuriken and threw them at Itachi. Itachi pulled out another kunai and blocked all 6 and threw the kunai at Naruto. Naruto dodged the kunai and ran towards Itachi. Itachi gave a little slack in the force of his kunai and kicked Kakashi away. Sakura caught Kakashi and they both ran towards Itachi, who had turned on Naruto. Itachi had done the signs for his jutsu, then fired a small stream of fire and skimmed Naruto on his right leg. Kakashi did several fast hand signs and sent a great fireball towards Itachi, who in turn did hand seals and disappeared under water and ground alike. Sakura, who had bent over to heal Naruto's leg when Kakashi started his jutsu, wasted no time and punched at the ground full force. The water where she punched went up in a large splash and the ground broke apart, the water now flowing down into the cracks. Itachi had been a short distance away and now jumped up through the ground using his jutsu. As soon as he surfaced, he jumped towards Sakura and Naruto, making 6 quick hand seals in midair. He punched his right hand down and sent a shockwave toward the two. Kakashi struck at Itachi as he landed and Itachi was sent sprawling. The shockwave had been sent and both Naruto and Sakura were pushed towards the trees they had camped near. Kakashi now ran towards Itachi, who had not taken long to get to his feet. Kakashi struck with his left fist, which Itachi sidestepped to Kakashi's left side. Seeing him dodge, Kakashi lifted his arm and struck under it with his right palm, following up with a kick with his right leg. Itachi blocked the open palm strike and grabbed Kakashi's leg and threw him at Sakura, who had been running with Naruto back to the fight. Naruto punched at Itachi with an open palm, which Itachi caught. Going with his momentum, Naruto spun around Itachi and elbowed him in the back, causing him to release Naruto's hand. Naruto formed the Rasengan in his right palm as fast as he could and struck out at the Uchiha. Itachi could feel the attack coming and whirled around to Naruto's right side and grabbed the arm with the Rasengan and flung him towards a tree that was nearby. Itachi turned towards the other two, who had gotten to their feet. Kakashi was breathing hard from a piece of wood that had been lying on the ground was stuck between his last 2 ribs. Sakura looked at Itachi, also breathing hard from exhaustion though. She pulled out a kunai and 3 shuriken. She chucked the shuriken and ran towards Itachi as Kakashi tried in vain to stop the headstrong girl. Itachi grabbed the shuriken midair, as if they were just a nuisance, and threw them back at the girl. They hit her in the leg and shoulders, sending the girl down. Kakashi looked at Itachi and prepared to use his Mange-Kyo Sharingan. He narrowed in the area it would affect in Itachi. Itachi saw this and used his own Sharingan. The 2 eye attacks fought each other, Itachi's trying to affect Kakashi's mind and stop his jutsu, Kakashi trying to break through this resistance and end the fight once and for all. Finally, though Itachi won, his jutsu affecting Kakashi's mind broke the jutsu and left him vulnerable. Itachi was about to attack Kakashi when he felt a great wind strike him in the side. Jiraiya's battle had started with him face down in the water. Kisame was standing next to him and stomping down on Jiraiya's back. Jiraiya grabbed his other leg and flung the shark man down into the water on his other side. Jumping up, Jiraiya punched down to where the shark man was. Kisame rolled out of the way and stood on one knee, slashed at Jiraiya with his sword, who jumped the attack and ran forwards and hit Kisame in the jaw with a palm strike and followed through with a kick which caused Kisame to burst into a spray of water. The water cloned down, Jiraiya ran away from the other's battle. This fighter used many large area jutsu from what he had heard and didn't want the others to be hit by them. From under the water came a giant explosion of water as Kisame used a water release barrier. Jiraiya was sent flying even farther from the others. Once he had stopped moving, Jiraiya made 7 seals and became transparent. He ran on top of the water, using his chakra to hide his steps. He saw Kisame under the water, looking side to side for any sign of Jiraiya. Jiraiya made several seals and he became visible. He thrust his hand down into the water and a missile of chakra went speeding towards the amphibious individual. Kisame saw this and swam out of the way and towards Jiraiya, his sword swimming at his side. The living sword surfaced first, trying to pierce him and then going back into the water, followed by Kisame who punched him in the back. Jiraiya rolled of the punch and backhanded him on the side of the head. Then kneed the blue man in the stomach. Jiraiya made the hand signs again and punched at Kisame with the glowing hand. Kisame's sword jumped up out of the water again, though and got in between the chakra missile and Kisame, sending both sword and owner flying backwards. Kisame grabbed the hilt of the sword and ran back across the water. He swung the sword downwards and Jiraiya sidestepped it. But instead of coming for another attack, Kisame went underwater and came up under Jiraiya, stabbing at him. Jiraiya dodged and made a seal and then blew a fireball at the water where Kisame was. The blue man came out of the water again, running towards Jiraiya. Right before they clashed though a great explosion was heard from the direction of the others. Kisame looked at the Sannin and then went underwater and sped towards the explosion. Jiraiya began to run as well, hoping they were all alright. When Naruto hit the tree he had a moment of hopelessness. Sasuke has been training for all this time to defeat Itachi. What chance do we stand if even Orochimaru couldn't take him on? Then another thought came to him: if we can defeat Itachi then we really have a chance. Naruto thought on all of his training in the blink of an eye. He held out his palm and formed the Rasengan. Then he added the wind chakra. The blue orb looked as if it were covered in a larger green orb. He held it feeling the two forms of chakra together. They were too unstable, he wouldn't be able to hold it much longer and soon it would blow up again. Rather than just let it blow up around him, like it had in the past, he lifted the orb between two hands. As he moved the orb, and ran towards Itachi, the wind and chakra jumped off the orbs, mixing, and going in the wake of the orb's path like a shockwave. When the shockwaves left the orb, it felt easier to control, more natural. Naruto now whirled the orb over his head and more shockwaves came of the orb heading towards Itachi. The first of these shockwaves of wind and chakra hit Itachi, it was like a solid wall hitting him. It knocked him away and cut at his arm. More of these shockwaves hit Itachi sending him farther and farther away and cutting him more with each hit. When Naruto came within range he tried to hit Itachi with the orb, only to have him dodge it. He brought the orb around and thrust the orb in a downward arc at Itachi. To stop from getting hit Itachi jumped backwards. As the orb touched the water it pushed the water out of the way for at least 3 yards, creating near dry ground. When the orb hit the ground it created a great explosion pointing away from Naruto. Itachi had avoided being hit by the attack, but was swallowed by the great explosion of chakra and wind that followed. Water and dirt went flying into the air. Once the explosion had ended dust still clung to the air. Naruto's face was in the dirt, his hands extended before him. He was okay but laid there thinking, unable to comprehend the attack he had just used. He lifted his head and saw a large crater. Water had already begun to fill the bottom, but there was nothing else. He pushed himself up onto all fours, then onto his knees. He looked around. Kakashi and Sakura were behind him. In front of him was the crater. To either side there was water rushing in to fill the hole. A sudden weakness filled Naruto. His arms felt heavy and his back felt like it was on fire. He collapsed down to the ground and landed in Jiraiya's arms. The Sannin had come as soon as he heard the attack. He had no idea what caused it yet, but Itachi was gone and there was a big crater. Naruto's back was cut up pretty badly, nothing that Sakura wouldn't be able to heal, but he was completely exhausted. Jiraiya was surprised that the Nine Tails chakra hadn't taken control of him during the fight. Jiraiya picked him up carefully and walked towards where Kakashi and Sakura were kneeling. The girl was healing her leg and shoulders, while Kakashi was pulling a piece of wood out from between his ribs. Once the piece was out, she cleaned the wound Kakashi had received with her medical pack, that never left her side, then she healed the wound with her jutsu. When Jiraiya came closer with Naruto, Sakura rushed up to him, putting his head between her hands. "Where is he hurt?" she asked. "His back," said Jiraiya as he gently flipped Naruto over. Some of the smaller cuts had already closed themselves, but the larger ones were still bleeding. Sakura used her jutsu and closed the wounds. Jiraiya asked about Kakashi. "I'm fine," said Kakashi. "My Sharingan protected me somewhat from his genjutsu this time. Let's get Naruto to someplace dry and set up a new camp for the night." The group gathered what stuff it could from its drenched campsite and left, Naruto on Jiraiya's back. Before they left, Jiraiya picked up a Konoha forehead protector with a scratch going through it. Kisame watched as the small group departed. That jutsu would destroy anyone, anything, and it's in the hands of the single most powerful Jinchuriki. How can we get his demon now? We will get it eventually. It may take more than just use though, said Itachi. His cloak was gone and the clothes he wore were soaked in blood, massive cuts covering his entire body. He could feel the foreign chakra act like poison through his body. His arm was around Kisame, who was supporting him. "Come on. We must get in contact with some of the others and I must have these wounds healed." "Yeah, you were only caught in it for a few seconds and this is what it did. Imagine if it had hit." That was thought Itachi did not want to consider. When Naruto woke up, he thought he was back in Konoha for a brief second. Then he opened his eyes and was looking up at the sky, a few trees off to one side. He sat up in the blankets that covered him and he was lying on. Up in one of the trees was Jiraiya, keeping watch. Huddled by a small fire was Sakura, looking into the fire. Next to him was Kakashi. Naruto's back had an intense stinging feel to it. When Kakashi saw him, he turned to the genin and put his hand on Naruto's shoulder before he could get up. "Hold on there. Your back has been healed only an hour or so. You might have the Nine Tails chakra helping you, but your back will take a day to heal. We don't have time, Kakashi-sensei. Well, you can at least rest through the night. We will start back up in the morning. We will be another 4 days until we get to the base now." Naruto laid back down and gave a little laugh. "I did it, Kakashi-sensei. I was able to use my jutsu." "Well, somewhat," said the Junin. "You really had no control over it, and the backlash from the explosion cut you up pretty badly. But now that you have done it, you can work on it and try to gain more control." Naruto slept through the rest of the night. In the morning, Naruto put on black clothes that Kakashi had. His had been ripped up by the explosion, and the group was back on their way, taking the first day slowly. After that, they picked up the pace again. Naruto's back still stung on the first day, but after that the pain began to ebb, and on the fourth day, when they found the base, the pain was gone. The base was a small palace. It had a large stone wall surrounding it. Every 30 yards there was a guard on top of the wall. Kakashi had the group fall back so they could come up with a plan for attack. "Alright, when we captured the Sound Nin last time, he told us of some of the defenses. The wall there is pretty sturdy, but we can sneak in through the sewage lines that run under it. He also told us that no Nin would be missed since they were constantly coming and going. There are apparently many runaways from the stronger Nin. Orochimaru doesn't give them the respect they deserve, so they leave after he gives them some power." The Nin said that Orochimaru and Sasuke had rooms in the top of the palace tower. "We will take this pathway and sneak in. Then we will make our way to the top slowly. If you see anything, inform Jiraiya or me." The group walked around the palace wall, unseen, looking for where the sewage was led in and out. When they found it, it was a stone structure with a ledge on either side and a small stream of sewage coming out. The group went in single file along the ledge, first Kakashi, followed by Naruto, then Sakura, and Jiraiya taking up the rear. As they went, they tried to keep measure of how far they went. There were periodically ladders that led up and out of the sewers. After slowly measuring out their distance for 10 minutes, they climbed a ladder. Kakashi raised the lid slowly, looking around. The room they were in was empty, woods walls and a sliding door. Kakashi motioned for the others to be quiet. They all came slowly, quietly. When they were all in, they closed the lid to the sewer and backed up against the wall. There was noise coming from the other room and Kakashi went by himself to handle it. The rest of the group heard two thumps and then Kakashi stuck his head in the door and motioned them in. On the ground lay two bodies, one a man, the other little more than a boy. The two had either been fighting or practicing when Kakashi entered. They proceeded through the small practice room, stepping over the bodies, which had blood coming from the slits on their necks. In the hallway there was not a single sound. The group turned left out of the training room. As they began to turn the corner they never saw Kabuto watching them. Kabuto went quickly and quietly through the halls, straight for Orochimaru's quarters. He entered and saw that Sasuke and Orochimaru were there, talking. Orochimaru turned towards Kabuto. This better be important, we are preparing for the transfer soon. Orochimaru-sama, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Naruto, and Sakura have entered the base. It seems they have come for Sasuke again. Ku. Sasuke laughed. Those fools have no idea that I'm not going back with them. Orochimaru, when we do the transfer I will be aware and you will get my revenge. Yes, Sasuke-kun, but this is much more important right now. Sasuke, we will go and meet our guests. Kabuto and I will distract Jiraiya so you can play with your friends. Come, let's go. Kakashi and the group had been walking for 20 minutes looking for a way up to the tower. They turned the corner and in front of them, at the end of the hallway, is Sasuke. He looked right at them and let out a laugh, ku, and then turned and walked down the next hall. The group began to run after him. As they all turned the corner Jiraiya stops. From behind him his name was called. You wouldn't just leave an old friend like me without saying hello first, right? Said Orochimaru. Jiraiya turned back and saw Orochimaru and Kabuto behind him. Orochimaru already had his sword out and Kabuto was taking some soldier's pills. Orochimaru, I haven't seen you in so many years. Said Jiraiya, how am I supposed to remember a face like that? With a little laugh Orochimaru and Kabuto ran forward. Jiraiya blocked a sword swipe with two kunai and kicked Kabuto away with one foot. Pushing up and knocking the sword away from himself, Jiraiya punched at Orochimaru, only to have him bend around the punch and strike back with a left punch. Jiraiya grabbed the arm and threw Orochimaru through the wall to the right. Kabuto was there again and Jiraiya had trouble dodging the attacks in the small corridor. Grabbing Kabuto's arms he pushed the boy against the left wall and prepared to attack when two arms came out of the wall behind him and pulled him through. Jiraiya was pulled through the wall and thrown head first into another. He landed against the wall with a loud bang and an audible creaking of the wood. Jiraiya rolled out of the way as Kabuto struck at him with his fingers extended, no doubt tipped with chakra. He made the proper hand signs and breathed out a great gust of wind, knocking Kabuto away. Orochimaru had made a cut in his hand and was using a summoning jutsu. The giant snake he called came out from under the ground and went after Jiraiya. Seeing the snake in the snug hallway Jiraiya ran the other way. He turned a corner and the snake broke out from the wall. Making hand signs, Jiraiya sent a red missile of chakra sped towards the snake, impaling it. As the snake disappeared Orochimaru slashed at Jiraiya, with an elongated sword. Jiraiya heard the sword break through the wood of the walls and ducked under it. Turning around he headed back to where Orochimaru was and did several hand signs and as he turned the corner blew a great fireball where the traitor had been. The fire hit nothing though, only started small fires in the hall. Jiraiya pulled out his scroll and sealed the fires, the battle apparently over. His body isn't working as it should. We were cutting this short. He went back through the walls and ran to where the others had been. Orochimaru watched his former teammate go. His body had another spasm. After his sword slash his body had collapsed and Kabuto had grabbed him and got him out of there. Kabuto, I must get to Sasuke-kun. I need to change bodies soon. Take me up to my chambers and get Sasuke-kun. Orochimaru ordered. Naruto and the others went chasing after Sasuke and had no idea where he was leading them. They entered a large room with a tiled floor, possibly an arena. Sasuke was standing at the other side, his hand on his sword hilt, protruding out the side of his shoulder. Now we will end this, Naruto, and I will have the eye, he said. Sasuke, yelled Kakashi, listen to reason, you don't need to do this. You don't have to become just another body for Orochimaru. Oh, but I will not be just another body, he said. I will be the ultimate body. The stronger the body is, the longer Orochimaru will be able to hold on to it. His current body is already failing him. My body will last him for decades to come. But this is all pointless. He drew the sword from behind him and made it at the ready in front of him. His eyes now showed the Sharingan's 3 marks in red glow. Moving with the same speed Naruto had seen before, he charged in. He stabbed at Kakashi, who spun away from the attack and prepared his Sharingan. Turning his blade, he followed through and sliced at Kakashi, who ducked down and stabbed at Sasuke with a kunai. Sasuke simply used his Chidori Nagashi and paralyzed the Junin. Hump. I thought you were better than that, Kakashi. He brought his sword up and prepared to stab down, only to be stopped by Naruto's kunai. I thought you knew you little kunai wouldn't work against my sword. But the kunai was never cut in half. Sasuke jumped away from him and prepared his sword. Naruto charged the 2 kunai, that were in either hand, with wind chakra, creating a longer blade of wind. Sasuke raised his eyebrows at seeing this. Well, it seems you learned a new trick or two. Good, it will make this more interesting. He charged his sword as well and they both ran forwards to confront each other. When the blade of wind met the blade of lightning, charged steel jolts of lightning and flares of wind came off the respective blades, creating loud sounds of thunder. They went back and forth between blocking and attacking, neither blade breaking, neither blade dulling. Sasuke was the faster of the two, but Naruto had his 2 kunai. Finally, though, Sasuke knocked away the kunai in his right hand and stabbed at Naruto. Sakura, who had been watching with Kakashi since she bent down to heal him, jumped up and punched Sasuke before the hit could connect. The former Leaf Shinobi went flying into the opposite wall, hitting it hard and tensing from the strength of his hit. His jaw felt loose but intact. He moved away from the wall, a grim look on his face. He slowly walked back to where he had dropped his sword. At this point Jiraiya came into the room, able to find his way by the sound of Naruto and Sasuke's blades. He entered and looked at the boy, a miniature Orochimaru. Why are you doing this, boy? Out of hate for your brother, was it? Jiraiya yelled. He would be truly shocked when he found out they had not told him, your brother is already dead. He yelled, pulling out the headband he had picked up and throwing it to the middle of the arena. Sasuke looked at the headband with the scratch through it. No, he whispered. No, a little louder, no. He yelled with all his voice. His skin crawled with the curse mark, black flames that covered his body. He looked at them and then jumped. He went through the ceiling. From where they were, the group could hear him yelling, Orochimaru, with hate and betrayal on his voice. The small group began to run to find out where he went. Wondering what was going to happen, Sasuke burst into the room where Orochimaru was. His body was covered in the black flames of the curse seal. Hurry, boy, we must do it. No. Sasuke paid him no heed and lunged at the man, who was in crippling pain. You promised me power to destroy Itachi. You made me believe that he couldn't be destroyed by either you or me yet. But he is already dead, killed by one of those fools I left for you. You lied to me, Orochimaru, and now you will die for it. Sasuke pulled up his sword and prepared to stab at him, only to be kicked away. Orochimaru made several signs and the room seemed to swirl with green. If you won't give me your body, then I'll just take it, yelled Orochimaru. He had started the body transfer jutsu. Sasuke held his head in his hands, feeling the pressure of Orochimaru trying to subdue his consciousness. He looked straight ahead and saw that Orochimaru was still partially in his body. It was standing looking at him, a snarl on his face. Sasuke picked up the sword that had fallen to the ground and stabbed Orochimaru through the heart. The body stopped gripped at the blade, unable to comprehend that the jutsu was over. Sasuke let go of the hilt, the green swirls still in the room forcing their way into his mind. Once the swirling stopped, Sasuke went down onto his knees, holding his head between his hands, and screaming. He could feel it in his mind, it was cursing him. His body twitched as it tried to take control of his body. Kabuto came into the room and saw Orochimaru's dead body with the sword in the heart. He charged up the chakra into his hands and prepared to kill the screaming Sasuke. Before his hand could connect though, Sasuke turned around and grabbed his arm. Kabuto, don't you dare, you fool. I have his body, let's go. He said, struggling to get the words out. Yes, Orochimaru-sama, said Kabuto, helping him to his feet and half carried him. As they went, Orochimaru at times looked at Kabuto and threw him down and just stared down at him. Then he would collapse again and would need Kabuto to hold him up. They ran coming across Shinobi. Orochimaru gave out orders to abandon the base and set off the explosives under it. Their base had been found and infiltrated. The shinobi began to evacuate the building. One was ordered to set off the explosives. Do you think this is wise, Orochimaru-sama? We can just as easily defend the base. Do it, Kabuto. We will bring the base down around Jiraiya and Naruto, and destroy all of the research, so no one will ever find it. Very well. The pair escaped, heading north out of the country. As they had their last look of the base, it blew up. Orochimaru had Sasuke's body and couldn't care what was in the base. Naruto and the rest had started to run as well, looking for a way to follow Sasuke. They had managed to get up the hole in the ceiling but had lost Sasuke. They searched for a while until they heard the sound of feet running towards them. They were all sound nin. But instead of attacking them, they kept on running. Something was happening. They kept running until Sakura saw something and called to the rest. They entered the room and saw Orochimaru dead on the floor, his heart pierced by Sasuke's sword. Jiraiya looked in and saw the sight. He walked up to the body and checked it. He's dead, he said. Our job is done, let's get out. The small group went back the way they came, went back down the hole. They came to the spot where Jiraiya and Orochimaru had fought and realized the path had been blocked. They went through the holes in the walls and broke through others until they were finally outside. When they made it outside, the first of the explosions started. They ran up the wall as fires began to swallow the base. They jumped away and kept going. They stopped for a night about 4 miles away from where the base had been. That night they talked about what they would do. We have to go back to Konoha, said Naruto. The Hokage should know what happened. Naruto, what about Sai and the Anbu squad on their way? We should wait and meet up with them, said Jiraiya. Besides, you're supposed to be locked away, remember? But we can't just stay here, it will be another 6 days until Sai reaches us, said Sakura. Excuse me, said Kakashi, but when we agreed to leave before the Anbu arrived, you all agreed to follow my orders. We will go back to the cottage. When Sai gets them to the base and they see it, they will send someone back there. We might even meet them on the way. Kakashi had taken hold of the situation again. They proceeded back to the cottage in the morning. They traveled for 7 days, and indeed meet up with Sai on the 3rd day. The Anbu captain they had sent had a message for the group. They were to return to Konoha to give a full report if they had already proceeded to the base. According to Sai, the Hokage had not been happy to learn they had disobeyed her orders. After stopping in at the cottage to gather what they needed, the group prepared to return to Konoha. 4 days later they had finally returned home. Naruto, Sakura, Kakashi, and Jiraiya were all called into the Hokage's office. They all had been waiting for the call all day. They were there to give a full report on what had happened and explain why they defied the Hokage's order not to take action. They all walked into the room and stood side by side in front of her desk. Kakashi had given the full report up to the point where they had to decide whether to go or wait for the Anbu. Ma'am, we had to choose. If we waited, then it might have been too late and the body switch would have been completed. If we went, though, there was a chance that one of our members could have been killed. It was Jiraiya-sama who came up with the compromise to send a messenger who knew the location of the base. In exchange for accepting his plan, I was placed as in charge of the mission. Tsunade looked at Jiraiya. So it was you. I really should have known. You've been like this since we were genin. Please continue, Kakashi. From there we began to travel to the base, which was 7 days away. On the 4th evening, however, we were attacked by the members of Akatsuki, Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hohigaki. Jiraiya fought with Kisame, while Naruto, Sakura, and I fought with Itachi. Itachi was, as expected, strong but was killed by Naruto with his original jutsu. Tsunade looked shocked. You mean he actually learned to control it? Not exactly. It was still extremely unstable and used more chakra than it might have, but the raw power of it was strong enough to create a crater large enough for me to stand in and not be able to see over the top of the sides. In addition to this, the backlash of the explosion cut Naruto badly. All in all, I think that with practice the jutsu could be controlled better. After the encounter with Itachi and Kisame, we proceeded to the base where we confronted Sasuke Uchiha. While we could not defeat him, the news of his brother's death sent him into a fury where we assume he killed Orochimaru. Tsunade was in shock at this. Her eyes were as wide as they could go. He is dead, truly. Maybe, responded Jiraiya. The others looked at him in confusion. Tsunade, it is possible that the body was a fake. We did not have enough time to examine the body. All of the sound nin were running around, not even bothering with us. Why is that? Asked Tsunade. When we left the base it began to explode. Possible special explosives placed there or a special jutsu. If Orochimaru was dead, then Sasuke would have had no reason to destroy the base. That is just a guess though, right? Asked Sakura. Yes, it is just a guess, but it is entirely possible. Tsunade looked worried. Please continue, Kakashi. Once we left the base we continued on until we met up with Sai and the Anbu squad you had sent us. They delivered your message to return to Konoha. From there we went to the cottage and gathered anything we needed and came here. That is all. Very well. Sakura, will you go and get the elders? Tell them that Naruto has been called back to the village and that I will explain everything. Kakashi, Naruto, you two are dismissed. Jiraiya, we must talk. Jiraiya did not look happy at talking to his former teammate. He was the one who convinced the other to disobey her orders. As the others left the room he turned to Tsunade, a big smile on his, and started there. Talk, Tsunade, I can explain everything. I just knew how close the Anbu would be cutting it and thought that you would agree if it was to stop Orochimaru. I promise I'll make it up however I can. Jiraiya, said Tsunade, I didn't want to talk about that. Do you really think Orochimaru might be alive? Jiraiya was calmed a little by the change in subject, but just as worried by the new topic. Yes, I think it is very likely he swapped bodies, perhaps forcibly, or the body we found was a fake. Sasuke would have had no reason to destroy the base, as I said, and Orochimaru isn't one to die gracefully. I may not have any proof, but it is too much of a possibility to ignore. If Orochimaru had been able to make the switch, then making it seem like Sasuke killed him would be in his favor. But how would Orochimaru know you would see the body? Is it possible that he is simply dead? Jiraiya looked at his former teammate. She was not one to age gracefully, her true face hidden by a genjutsu. She looked as if she were in her 20s. It is possible, just as possible as him still being alive. Tsunade, these are the things we must live with and prepare for. We will do what we must to protect the leaf, so we must be ready for Orochimaru to return. Right. said Tsunade. As Jiraiya turned to walk out the door, Tsunade called his name. Jiraiya, she said, there is still the matter of you disobeying my orders. I do believe you said you would make up for it however you could. Jiraiya had a bad feeling about this. The Hokage's image could always use a boost. There is a Chunin exam coming up and, it was every bit as bad as he feared. Jacken jumped and kicked, punched, hitting the targets in a very precise order as fast as he could. He blurred from one to the next to the next. Finally all of the targets were destroyed. His mother called his time, 200 targets in 20 seconds. Well, not nearly as good as mine or Lee's, but it's good for now. Jacken's mother, a slim woman with the same red eyes and white hair and skin as her son, stood next to Rock Lee, both of whom had watched over his training for the past 2 months. Lee and Jacken had become fast friends, and when his mother had to be away on missions, Lee tried to oversee his training as best he could. The young boy had grown fast with the intense training his mother gave him, though still nowhere near as fast as her or Lee. When he wasn't training, he was doing missions with Captain Yamato and Hanabi. Neither of them knew what had happened to Naruto. They were assured that he was alive and safe, but he had just disappeared after they had gotten him to show them his new jutsu. That incident had left them both knocked out with only a couple of cuts and bruises to show for it. Jacken had walked over to his mother, the youthful woman, being only 30, put her hand on his head and messed up his hair. Jacken saw behind her Captain Yamato walking around the house to the backyard where they were practicing. He told his mother he was here, and all three of them turned to greet him. Hello, Captain Yamato, said Jacken and Lee, both being of a lower rank. Karina gave a pleasant head nod, being a Junin. Why are you here today? Asked Karina. Has my son skipped a mission so he could train again? She gave a little laugh, but when Jacken had skipped a mission so he could train, she had been furious and had beat her son till color showed in his face. No, said the Junin, I have come here to get him. We are going to see Naruto today. He has just come in and I think it's appropriate for him to become reacquainted with his teammates. Captain, where has Naruto been for the past 2 months? He asked, walking over to Yamato. Naruto was sent into an exile of sorts. He was not supposed to use the jutsu he showed you unless I was there. It may seem like it was harsh, but it had its purpose. Come on, we have to get Hanabi still. The duo walked from the former Uchiha residence towards the Hyuga household. Jacken asked why Naruto using the jutsu was so bad. Because, Jacken, it was very dangerous. Using the jutsu could have killed not only the two of you, but also many others. They arrived at the manor shortly after. They told the guard at the front gate why they were there and they proceeded to the courtyard. Inside the courtyard, Hanabi sparred with her father. Hiyashi had refused to let the sisters spar, in case one of them was hurt. Hanabi weaved in and out, snaking hits at her father when they appeared and blocking of dodging his hits when he attacked. He was giving out commands of what he was doing and sometimes telling her what to do. Seeing the two with his Byakugan, his last command was, Kaden. He struck straight at his daughter. Hanabi began to glow, as she pushed chakra out of all her chakra pores, and then she spun around creating a white orb around herself. Her father's attack was pushed back and he jumped back from the energy ball. Jacken was surprised to say the least. He had seen Hanabi's cousin perform the defense once, he did not know when she had learned it. While their group did continue to do missions together, they had been training by themselves or with their families. Yamato came closer. Some of the other family members who were in the courtyard had begun to clap for the magnificent fight. Yamato bowed to Hiyashi, giving all the respects that were due to a clan head. I am sorry to disturb your training, Hanabi, but Naruto-kun has returned from his seclusion and I would like the team to get together. Yes, of course. Yamato, there is something I wished to ask you first, said Hiyashi. Yes, what? Hiyashi looked at his daughter and smiled, then looked at Yamato. Do you intend to enter Team 15 into the Chunin exams in 2 months? Yamato looked concerned. I'm not sure yet. Either you or me or any other in this household could tell them how hard the Chunin exams are. I wish to make sure they are not only physically prepared but mentally as well. Ah, but you cannot truly prepare them mentally for the exams. It is impossible. I ask you to consider it. Would Naruto be able to compete, since the seal is slowly failing? Yamato looked the older man straight in the eyes. That is not something to bring up in front of ignorant ears, Hiyashi. The clan head looked at the two genin. He had forgotten they were there for a moment. His eyes still lowered. Yes, forgive me, I forgot myself. Hanabi was shocked to hear and see her father so humbled by words. But he can compete and has once before. Went on Yamato, there shouldn't be any problem, nothing has happened recently. Hanabi and Jacken were lost to the meaning of the conversation now. Soon though Yamato took them and left to go meet Naruto. Naruto and Kakashi were walking to the ramen stand when Yamato, Hanabi, and Jacken found them. Naruto saw the group and put a huge smile on his face. He had not seen his small group for 2 months and had been worried about them. Naruto ran up to Hanabi and Jacken giving a big laugh. It's been so long since I've seen anyone, it's great to see you guys. The happy procession went to the ramen stand together and began to talk about what had happened in Konoha, though Naruto noticed that Hanabi seemed to stare at Kakashi. While Team 15 was reuniting, Tsunade had called the elders to his office. As they entered, she stood up and greeted them. Homura, Kaharu, I am glad you came. The elderly man and woman sat down on the chairs in front of Tsunade's desk. The two had been on the third Hokage's team when they had all been younger and were far older than Tsunade. Homura had her gray hair up in a bun and Kaharu had his coming down the side and back of his head, tucked under his black framed glasses. Yes, Tsunade, we have much to talk about, said the elderly woman. What is this about Naruto Uzumaki being called back to the village? I hope you have a good reason for doing this without consulting us. It is the same reason why he should have been kept on active duty, said Tsunade. His life was put in danger by Akatsuki. While he was away, he was attacked by Akatsuki. Impossible, said Hamaru. I told you he would still be in danger if he were to stay in one spot. By locking him away, like he was, the leaf was in more danger than ever. You know better than anyone what the Nine Tails is capable of. Itachi Uchiha had very nearly taken Naruto, so I have brought him back to the village. If Akatsuki attacks here, they will find it much harder than in a secluded area. Yes, answered Konoru, it is for the best after all. But we must figure out something. We will, reassured Tsunade, but you must listen to me. I have gotten to know Naruto better than most people in Konoha. I know of some of what he feels. We can protect him only for so long though, eventually he will have to confront those who are perusing him. Let us pray that day is far away still. Were Homaru's last words. Team 15's day together had almost come to an end. Yamato and Kakashi had left to do some paperwork and now Jacken, Naruto and Hanabi all walked side by side down a street towards the Hyuga Manor. Naruto had been happy to hear that they had been okay after he had used his jutsu and how their training had come. Naruto now asked Hanabi a question that had been bothering him all day. Hanabi, why were you staring at Kakashi-sensei all at lunch today? The question had caught the Hyuga member off guard. She had been in awe that she was meeting Kakashi Hatake, the copycat ninja. She didn't want them to know that she, a member of the prestigious Hyuga clan, had been practically giddy inside. Well, it was Sharingan Kakashi, she said calmly. How many times am I going to see someone as strong as him? Naruto looked at the girl, then with a big smile on his face he yelled, you have a crush on Kakashi. You idiot. How could he even think something that ridicules, Naruto? You're an idiot, you know that. She said and walked on by herself. Jacken let out a little laugh and asked Naruto when Hanabi was out of hearing, why did you do that? You know she's likely to kill you for that, right? The big smile had never left his face. Ah, I'm just joking, she needs to lighten up a little. Jacken laughed and asked Naruto, "Hey, you want to come to meet my family? We've met Hanabi's family and she's met mine, now it's your turn." "Sure. I don't have anywhere to be." Jacken led the older boy to the former Uchiha quarter. "Now there is only one left," thought Naruto as he entered the area. "Now I just have to bring him back." As they walked up to Jacken's house, Naruto wondered which of these houses had been where Sasuke lived, where Itachi had started killing his entire family. He shuddered at the thoughts that came unbidden. When they entered the small house, a man in blue and black robes came down the stairs to the right of the entrance. He had short brown hair and he had a scroll on a clipboard. "Oh Jacken, you're home. Mishi will have dinner ready in half an hour." He then saw Naruto behind Jacken. "Oh, who is this?" "Father, this is Naruto Uzumaki. He is on my team. I invited him to meet you and the rest of the family." "I see. Well, your grandfather is in the back room with your mother. It may be best to wait for him to leave before introducing him to your mother." When the man had went back up the stairs, Naruto asked Jacken, "Why doesn't he want your grandfather to meet me?" Jacken looked at Naruto, a grim look on his face. "Grandfather is always thinking about the clan. He doesn't like outsiders, as he calls them. He is afraid that others will try and steal our jutsu or training techniques. Because of this, the only people from outside the clan he will personally meet are representatives of the Hokage and elders or a member of one of Konoha's 4 noble houses. He gladly meet with Hanabi, hoping to gain some measure of friendship with one of the clan. He thinks that if one of the 4 noble clans will invite us in, then the clan will become more accepted in Konoha." "What do you mean? You get along great with everyone from what I see. Isn't the clan accepted?" "Naruto, I am one person. At the academy I was ostracized because of my clan. Many people in Konoha still see us as enemy from the Lightning County. What's with people in this village and trying to give labels and positions to everyone? Who cares if you came from the Lightning Country, or if a person is of a different branch of a certain family? It's all just stupid." "Yes it is, young man," said a voice from the door behind Naruto, "but that is how the world works." Naruto turned around and saw a slim woman, her forehead protector around her waist, with red eyes and all white hair and skin like Jacken's. Next to her was an elderly man, his hair all white and his skin defiantly paler than a normal person's. He held a walking stick in his right hand and wore long black robes with a white, 4-pronged star on the breast and shoulder. It was his eyes that stood out to Naruto though. They were a dark, blood red color, whereas Jacken and the woman who stood next to the old man had bright red eyes. Jacken bowed down before elderly man saying, "Grandfather," then turned to the woman and said, "Mother." The elderly man however walked forwards and looked Naruto over. "How old are you?" "I'm 15, sir. You may call me Jackern." "What is your name?" "Naruto Uzumaki, Jackern-sama." "Why do you?" "Hush boy, I did not tell you to speak." The elderly man looked at Naruto carefully. "Naruto Uzumaki. Yes, I have heard of you. It is said you are a dangerous person to be around. Now why would that be? You speak against such titles and positions as if you intend to change it." "Well, do you?" Naruto looked at the man curiously. "Yes, because one day I will be Hokage of the Leaf." The man gave a little laugh. "Even a cage is only so powerful. You could not make a law that says there'll be no more labels to put on people, that there will be no more positions to give people in society. Those names and positions are placed without any man's consent. How would you change such a thing?" "I would change the people's minds, their hearts," answered Naruto. The man gave Naruto a little smile and a laugh. "Perhaps you are called dangerous because you bring change with you. Then, do you fight against these names because of the one that is given to you, Jinchuriki?" The woman at his side gave a small cry. "Father! It is forbidden." Naruto gave a low growl, his face in a snarl. That was the title he hated most. "What right does anyone have to give me such a name? It is a name for what you are. You are as much an outcast for your name as our clan for where we are from. We are brethren in our exile. Your dream is a worthy one, but you seek a title to get rid of all titles. If you are Hokage, then that is one more thing that separates you from all others. The old man turned from the shocked Naruto, and looked at the woman. Goodbye Karina, I will see you tomorrow. Then he walked out the door. Without giving a second look. Jacken had heard the whole conversation but was confused. Naruto, what is a Jinchuriki? Jacken, said the woman, that is something you are not ready to hear yet. She turned to Naruto then and said, Naruto Uzumaki, we did not formally meet yet. I am Karina Orochi, Jacken's mother. Please forgive my father. He is very free-willed in his old age, he did not mean to insult you like that. It might not seem like it, but by how he talked to you it seems like he liked you. I have seen him go as far as hitting a person with his walking stick because he didn't like them. Naruto looked at Jacken and his mother and a question crossed his mind. When Karina left the room, Naruto asked Jacken, hey, I don't mean to be mean, but why do you and your mother have no color in your skin or any of that and your eyes are red? Jacken looked at Naruto and gave a little laugh. I wondered why you never asked that before. It's the jutsu that our family use, they take the pigment out of the body the more you use them. If I were to not use my jutsu for a month or so I would have a little color in my skin again. My father isn't a shinobi so his skin never changed. Naruto nodded his head the entire time, then, so what's pigment? Naruto left that night with Jacken and his mother waving him goodbye. Naruto, Hanabi, and Jacken fell back into the habit of doing missions together and training. Naruto trained with Yamato and Kakashi, Hanabi trained with her father and Hinata, and Jacken trained with his mother and Lee. Time seemed to pass by quickly for the group and it did not seem like very long until the Chunin exams had arrived and it was time to pick the candidates.